What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live here on a Thursday. Today, we're going to talk about the NBA Finals. We're going to talk about a trade. The NBA saw its first blockbuster trade, and it was quite the blockbuster, and it was one that people did not see coming. So we're going to talk about that and talk about how the Anthony Simons to Orlando dream is officially dead. It was kind of dead before, but now it's all but official as the Magic make a splash, and it's not for Anthony Simons. We'll also take your questions for this stream. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA draft. The draft is a week from today, which is absolutely crazy. It's 6 days from today, round one is. We're going to have live streams for both the first and second rounds of the NBA draft. We've got the Blazers with the 11th pick. And then also they may be looking to trade into the second round. We'll see if they get some day two action, unlike last year where they traded all their picks away. Eric, what's going on, man? How's your Monday?
You are seriously off. We have 9 days till the draft.
Monday, 9 days. I'm thinking it's a Thursday. It's a Thursday.
9 days till the draft. It's a Monday.
So normally I don't go anywhere before our stream. On Monday, Thursday, I have Rec League, so I come back from Rec League and I'm rushed and I get the stream together. And then today I went to Rip City Radio. That was a lot of fun. Shout out Chris Burkhart for having me. So then I came home and was rushed like I normally am on a Thursday. That's why I thought it was a Thursday. Maybe I'm going insane. I don't know. But hopefully you guys had a great weekend. Eric, how's your Monday treating you?
Oh, pretty good. It's my wife's birthday today, so happy birthday to her. And then, so just went out to dinner for that. And, excited to talk some basketball with you guys.
Yep, happy birthday to your wife. I even looked at it being the 16th today, knowing the draft's on the 25th, and somehow that computed to 6 in my head. So, yeah, anyway, rough little start here, but we will power through it. Hopefully you guys having a great Monday. Let's talk about the NBA Finals. We'll get that out of the way. Then we're going to talk about this trade. And I'm looking forward to talking about this trade that went down between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Orlando Magic on, what was it? It was yesterday.
Yeah, Sunday.
It was yesterday. So I talked a little bit about it on the radio today. Happy to break it down. We're going to discuss whether or not the Magic should have traded for Anthony Simons instead, assuming he would have came much, much cheaper. But first, we got to talk about this finals game. Let me pop up the correct graphics. So you got Game 5. Game 5 was tonight. The Thunder take care of business after winning Game 4, a game that it looked like the Pacers had in the bag at one point. The Thunder fight back, win Game 4, then they go home to OKC. Everyone, I feel like, kind of knew that they were going to win this game. This is the type of game the Thunder have won all playoff series, all playoffs long. Jalen Williams has a 40-piece, SGA 31 and 10 with 4 blocks for the guard. Aaron Wiggins had 14. Tyrese Halliburton got hurt in the first quarter. He pulled his calf, and he was basically a no-show after that, which is understandable given the injury, but it could not have struck at a worse time. With Halliburton ailing, TJ McConnell tried to step up. He had 18 points off the bench for the Pacers. There was debate whether the Pacers should have finished the game with TJ McConnell or Tyrese Halliburton. Halliburton ends up playing 34 minutes. McConnell only 22. This is the second straight Pacers loss that there was a debate whether a bench player should have played ahead of a starter. Last game it was Obi Toppin versus Miles Turner. But the Thunder win. They go up 3-2, and now the series heads back to Indiana for a Game 6 on Thursday. Eric, your initial takeaways from this game as the Thunder take care of business?
Obviously, when the Thunder get rolling, and they had Jalen Williams step up tonight, make some big plays, had some big buckets there. But, man, there was several costly turnovers in that fourth quarter by the Pacers when they had cut it down. to I think they were only down 2 at one point, right? And then Nemhard had 3 horrific turnovers that all led to fast break baskets.
Yeah.
Halliburton had a couple of bad ones where he got stuck with the ball, didn't know where to go, and threw it away. And that was the ball game. Can't turn it over against this OKC team. And when Jalen Williams is playing like that, you're getting your normal effort from SGA. That's his 15th playoff game with over 30 points. So he's been really consistent scoring the ball. So when those two guys give you 71 points, it's really going to be tough to beat the Thunder, especially when you're committing live ball turnovers headed the other way.
Yeah, the Pacers got into trouble there in the fourth quarter, just trying to initiate their offense and struggling and having to outlet the ball 30 feet away from the rim and just not even being able to do that because the Thunder were denying guys, playing the passing lanes. Caruso had some huge defensive plays for them. And Nemhard had some bad passes, man. But the Thunder ratcheted up the pressure, and you just can't get caught stuck up above the arc, or else you might not have an option, and you might have to try and force a pass that doesn't get through. And it's been interesting to watch this OKC defense kind of bog down the Indiana offense, because no defense has done that to them this entire playoff series, or this entire playoff run that they've been on. Cleveland couldn't do it. New York couldn't do it. Milwaukee couldn't do it. But, of course, the Thunder, the best defense in the league, they've been able to find some success just going on these defensive runs and turning defense into offense. And they were up 18. They were doing a great job, and the Pacers fought back. I mean, they always fight back. They cut it to 2. And I thought it was going to be close down the stretch. I thought it was going to be one of those nail-biters, kind of like Game 1. And then the Thunder defense just completely took this game over. They can take over a game on that side of the floor, and they turn that into buckets the other way. So the Thunder are 1 win away, man. 1 win away from a championship. And I don't know. It kind of sucks. I hope that the Pacers win Game 6. I hope that we get a Game 7 next Sunday.
Yeah, that'd be fun. The atmosphere in OKC would be crazy for a Game 7. It was crazy tonight. Shout out to their fans for
color coordinating
the shirt thing, right? Yeah, so many of those fan bases don't really have so many people not wearing the shirts, and it seemed like almost everyone was wearing them, and yeah, that was cool.
It's something that Blazer fans struggled with back when we were making the playoffs, man. We got to do better next time we make the playoffs.
Even people I know that don't really follow basketball or care about watching were amazed at how color coordinated it was. And so shout out to that. It'd be awesome to get a Game 7. The way the Thunder have been playing these last couple games, though, makes you wonder if they're just going to close it out.
I think the Pacers win Game 6.
Yeah.
I think the Pacers win Game 6. I think with their backs against the wall, they're going to... I mean, if Halliburton was healthy, I would feel confident in that. With his health being a question mark, it's tough, man. It's tough.
Yeah,
I guess I have to factor that into it because that is definitely a tough thing for them to deal with. I'm still not going to count the Pacers out at home in an elimination game. I think they just find a way. But it does suck that we have Halliburton dealing with that calf strain. And, oh, man, it's like the second Halliburton gets hurt and struggles, I go on Twitter and I see 10 Dame accounts just calling him a role player and just they got their chance to knock him down. And I'm so tired of the Dame versus Allie stuff. I just need to not go on Twitter, I guess, during the finals.
That's like my Scoot versus Ant.
Yeah, that's relevant, though. That's very relevant, though.
Well, Hallie
versus Dame is not relevant from my timeline. I don't follow Pacers fans. I don't follow Bucks fans. I guess I follow Dame fans. So, are those Bucks fans or are they just Dame fans? I don't know. But I've always had a sore spot for player stan groups.
I always pissed off the Mellow stands. Shout out to what was that one guy's name? Our favorite Block Boy. Shout out to Block Boy. That was our favorite. The Reddish stand group. I don't even know how he had a group of fans, but I pissed them off. So I don't know. Maybe Dame fans are next, even though I'm one of them. I'm just also a Blazer fan.
Piss off the Banton fans.
True.
The Aiden fans. Although you did kind of convert Taylor Packer.
I saved him.
Remember when he used to argue?
Yeah. I try and save people from their player fandoms, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they go down with the ship, like with Cam Reddish. But
we got Thursday night, Game 6, so our next Blazers Uprise live stream will either be talking about Game 7 or lamenting the Thunder winning the series.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to either. I'm looking forward to either the finals being done, and then we got the draft that at that point will be 6 days away from day one. Or we get to talk about a Game 7, which will be fun, which would take place on Sunday. So we'll see. 1 to 2 basketball games
from the future,
left.
right?
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, shout out to the Thunder, I guess, man. Jalen Williams had himself a huge game, a statement game from him. SGA, 31 points, wasn't even particularly efficient from the field, but he gets 14 free throws like he does so well. In the Thunder stave off the Pacers comeback to win 120-109. Enough of that. Let's get into the fun stuff, which is trades, man. Trades. So there's all this talk right now about Kevin Durant. Where is he going to go? Is it going to be the Timberwolves? But apparently he doesn't want to go there at all. Is it going to be the Spurs, the Rockets? Could the Raptors, who have been named as a dark horse team, could they pull off another surprise trade just like they did for Brandon Ingram, this time just for an even better forward? There is a lot of KD stuff right now, and there was whispers that a KD trade was going to happen last weekend. So waking up to a Shams bomb on a Sunday morning, expecting it to be a KD trade, one of the last things I expected was for it to be a Desmond Bane trade.
Yeah.
We didn't even really know that Desmond Bane was available, but considering the package that the Grizzlies got back, it's very understandable why they traded him. The Grizzlies get back the 16th pick in this year's draft, a 2026 first-round pick that's like Phoenix or Washington, whichever is worse, as long as Washington's pick is in the top 8. Just weird protections on that. So, that could be a pretty good pick, though. That could be a lottery pick for the Grizzlies. And then they get back a 2028 and 2030 unprotected first. What's funny is when this trade happened, it was 4 unprotected first. One of them is the 16th pick. Well, okay, yeah, it's not protected, I guess, but it doesn't really count as an unprotected pick. It's already set in stone, right? And the 2026 Phoenix first has weird conditions and protections on it anyway. But I initially saw 4 unprotected firsts and an unprotected pick swap in 2029. So Memphis will get the best of Orlando's and their own pick.
Memphis basically has the same 3 sets of picks that we have although we have 2 swaps and 1 pick, but the 28 through 2030 picks from Orlando.
Yeah, but then they have a 2026 to boot and a 16th pick this year. In the Magic trade, Kentavious Caldwell Pope and Cole Anthony. It's kind of like the Ant package, kind of. Just they had to trade out a little bit more salary. Desmond Bane makes a little bit more than Anthony Simons. What are your thoughts on this trade, Eric, as I shut the door behind me? Give me your thoughts.
Well, my initial thought was wholly overpay. As I thought about it more, obviously, one of the first-round picks is for taking on KCP's contract most likely.
Yeah, not a good contract.
And maybe Cole Anthony too. But so it was really, in my mind, like 3 firsts and a swap, which still seems like a lot. But as you mentioned, Bane wasn't necessarily on the trade block. So if you're going after a player like that, much like the Blazers with Denny last year, you might have to give up a little bit more than you normally would have to for a player that was known to be available. For me, I kept thinking about the picks. You know, the 16th pick is what it is. Depends on how Memphis uses that pick.
They could get their next Desmond Bane with that pick. They could take Nick
Right.
Clifford, and he could be Desmond Bane-ish, I think. So
Liam McNeely got added to the green room of the draft today.
that does seem like a Grizzlies
Some
pick.
are speculating that he could be the pick there. But no. Then, the 2026 first could be a lottery pick, like you said. But, like, the Magic have to be thinking their picks are going to be now in the 20s or whatever. So, in their mind, that probably isn't, like, huge value to give up. A non-lottery pick just outside the lottery. And then maybe potentially one good pick, but it's not necessarily your own pick. And then a couple of future picks that, as long as you stay good and stay relevant, those shouldn't be like too high. I just don't like giving up like that many chances and having a season where you have Banchero and Wagner hurt or something, and things go south and you end up giving them a top 5 pick or something. To have no protections is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But like I said, when you're trading for someone who isn't available necessarily, you have to overpay a little bit. And Bane has shown enough in the last couple of years that he can he obviously can create, he can shoot the heck out of the ball. And then he's also, at times when Jaw's been out, averaged 6 assists a game. So like he can move the ball, run the offense a little bit. This kind of seems like they think Jalen Suggs is their long-term point guard, I guess. But Bane can definitely handle those secondary duties, and he's an okay defender as well. So I know it's like a huge overpay, and Memphis had to. This is one of those like no-brainers in my mind. Like it makes sense to accept this deal. But I also kind of like that the Magic finally identified a player they wanted, went out and got him. I might have, like in the mock-off season, obviously, that player for me was Darius Garland that I thought I needed to get. And like, I thought that was going to be someone they seriously pursued as well. But Bane, he's the best shooter that they probably could have gotten, and that we know they've been starved for shooting. So yeah. I kind of applaud them for going for it, even with how much they gave up.
Yeah, and it's probably the best available guard that can shoot, initiate a little bit, play make a little bit, and then also is a solid defender. Because Garland, Anthony Simons, they're not as good as Desmond Bane defensively. So it seemed like that was part of what Orlando valued, was bring somebody in that's not going to hurt them defensively. And the argument, we'll talk about the Anthony Simons angle in a bit, a little bit more in depth, and write the obituary for that trade dream. But the argument was always like, oh, you can bring in Anthony Simons, you have so many good defenders everywhere else, like it's fine. But even if you have a defender like Anthony Simons on the Magic, like teams in a playoff series, one of their game plans will probably be to try and hunt him, just because of his physical limitations, and especially with how physical the playoffs are. I think teams would definitely just try and find ways to get him switched on to players whose matchups they like against him, and That's not going to be the case with Desmond Bane, and it seemed like the Magic valued Desmond Bane being somebody that can contribute defensively and be solid on that side of the floor. So I will always respect a team identifying the right type of player for what they need and being willing to overpay and just go for it, especially considering the Portland Trail Blazers. We begged them for years to do something like that with Damian Lillard and with Neil Olshey, and Olshey never did that. I will always respect a team doing that because I would have loved to have overpaid for a Desmond Bane type of forward to pair next to Dame and CJ and whoever else. So I respect that angle of it. I also think like the picks are probably not going to be good. And yeah, if everything goes wrong, that could be a really high pick. But when you make this type of trade, you can't be scared of the worst case scenario because you're making this trade for the best case scenario, which is they could be the next Pacers next year in a wide open East. You got Boston, who is dealing with the Tatum injury and might have to trade Porzingis, might have to trade Drew Holiday. You have Cleveland, who they were the 1 seed, but they have question marks this offseason, and they lost them 5 to Indiana. You got Indiana, which is, I think, maybe going to be the favorite next year after this run they've put together, but I don't think they're unbeatable by any means when you're looking at the Orlando Magic. You got the Knicks. Like, you got some decent teams, but I could see the Magic with Desmond Bane having a chance to win any playoff series in the East next season, and that's what you're going for. You know, you're swinging for the fences. Whenever you swing for the fences, there's generally going to be some risk involved. It's rare that you get the perfect home run swing trade where the downside is minimal. Like, normally there's always going to be some risk involved for that, and the risk is baked into the price. You're giving up unprotected picks, and like you said, with the Grizzlies probably not like looking to trade Desmond Bane, you had to wow them with a deal, and that's what the Magic did. Now on the Grizzlies end of things, is this a retooling type of move or is this a rebuilding type of move is the big question right now. They could trade Ja, they could trade Jaren Jackson Jr. If they don't, if they keep both those players, I wonder what their next move is and what their plan is. I think this type of move signals a rebuild, and they could be in a great position going into a rebuild, which is funny because they were like the young upstart team like 3 years ago. So it's kind of weird to already be talking about a potential rebuild for them. But the draft pick haul you got back for Desmond Bane, the haul you'd get back for Jaren Jackson Jr., the haul you could get back for John Morant, like they could be in an insanely good spot to kick off a rebuild if that's what they want to do, given the headaches that John Morant has caused them and so forth. I just don't really feel like that's what they're going to do. I feel like they're going to keep Ja. I feel like they're going to keep Jaren Jackson Jr., so I don't really know what their plan is after this.
Well, Shams and every national media that's spoken on this member has said that they are keeping Ja and Jaren and are not looking to trade them or start a rebuild, that this was just a trade to get them in a better position to add more talent around those two, not to trade those guys. So
it's funny that to them trading a player for picks is putting themselves in a position to add more talent, but for the Blazers, that's like a completely asinine concept.
Yeah. I mean, the Grizzlies have been a team that has valued draft picks, whereas we've talked about this all the time with the Blazers. They do value their one pick they have. That's their own pick from being bad the last few years, but they haven't really valued getting picks over getting players back. You know, they traded some of their assets for Denny, which ended up being the right move, I think. And then, you know, there's talk that they're interested in moving picks again this summer for proven talent. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it doesn't look like Memphis is going to rebuild. This has kind of been joked about and this isn't like not necessarily a serious question, but if the Grizzlies did have a rumor last week that they were interested in Denny, if they turn around and offered you that pick haul that they just got for Bane, are you turning that down, Tori? Or what do you do?
I mean, the value is insane, and you're turning 2 firsts into 4 firsts in a swap, right? Like,
Yeah.
so you're coming out ahead compared to where you were last offseason is one way to look at it. But also, it's like, it really depends on if you feel like Denny can be an all-star or not.
Yeah.
Because if you're not fully confident that he will become an all-star, which is kind of hard to, then, like, logically speaking, a guy that you're not confident will become an all-star, if you could get 4 firsts and, like, 2 unprotected future firsts, you know, a swap rights in 2029, it makes sense to take that package in a vacuum. It's just when you start talking about, like, team direction and what they're building and this and that, then that's when it's like, yeah, probably not. They probably shouldn't. They should find smart ways to kind of progress forward with Denny. And it's like, you need to see what he could be next year. I feel like next year is going to be the moment for Denny Avdia. It's going to be either his chance to cement himself as the player that he was the second half of last season when he played like an all-star caliber player, or it's going to be, oh yeah, that was like a hot stretch, but now he's struggling to start the season again. Like, we're maybe never going to get that version of Denny Avdia consistently. I feel like that's one of the biggest narratives going into next year, and I think next year is where a ton of different narratives will come to a head in a way that we have never seen from a Blazers season, like, ever. I think it's going to be insane covering this team next season, right? And that's one of them. But, like, you're hoping that he's better than Desmond Bane. Like, the second half of last year was probably as good of a half season as Desmond Bane's ever had. So if you think he could, like, build upon that at all, then I could easily say no. It's a tough question.
Yeah. This is where it's tough, because at some point I don't like, I mean, obviously if a team offered you like 7 firsts, you have to take it for anyone. That's a Blazer right now.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's worth that. So but like at the same time, like Denny's contract is going to be the reason why we hear his name pop up a lot. And it's the same reason why we hear Tamani, because all these teams that are stuck against aprons or in tough positions can still trade for those type of guys because of their contracts. And so I just think we're going to keep hearing this stuff, but yeah. I don't think the Blazers have any interest in trading him.
I think it's more likely the Grizzlies would trade for Anthony Simons than Denny Avdia.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think either is likely
Denny would fit really well on that team.
He would. But they also kind of need shooting, and they do have some defensive pieces. So, like, you could make the argument that Ant would also kind of fit, especially when Ja is suspended for another 25 games for Lord knows what. You could slide over to that point guard role. But I think it's they got Jalen Wells who can start at the 2 or the 3. Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey, I assume, is going to continue to start at center. Maybe they become a player in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, and that's the 5th starter there, and they hope that team can contend next year.
I think so. Durant has said in the past, and I think he reiterated that he would not sign an extension with the Timberwolves or the Grizzlies.
Yeah, but if the teams he wants to go to aren't offering strong enough packages, then all of a sudden, like, that doesn't even matter. And I think that's what I'm wondering right now. The teams he wants to go to, are they offering better packages than the Grizzlies would give up
just for a chance at a rental and to try and convince him to resign. Right? Because if the other team's packages aren't better than that, then it doesn't even really matter. We've seen I brought up the Raptors as a dark horse team for KD. We've seen them take a chance on a 1-year rental before, and it worked out beautifully for them. Now, they are not in that position at all. But
for the record, Edie had ankle surgery and might be out in the first few months of the season.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Who's
the other center they have that I'm blanking on?
Well, they have Brandon Clark.
Yeah, Brandon Clark. I mean, he's always hurt. Jay Huff was solid last year. He can be a solid backup. They could always start Jerry Jackson Jr. at the 5 and Santi Aldama at the 4, assuming they keep him in restricted free agency.
I think both him and Huff are free agents.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure what their next move is, but I would expect them to not be done trade-wise. And the Grizzlies is funny because they have been one of the quieter teams trade-wise, and honestly, so have the Magic. These are just two teams that are they don't really do much ever, and then they combine for this first blockbuster of the offseason. It's kind of funny in that regard. But
yeah, I was surprised waking up that they made this trade before the finals were over. I know legally you can start making trades as soon as your season is over, but usually teams will wait.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it has something to do with the 16th pick, just locking that in.
Yeah,
and then prepping that. Compared to we have something locked in, but who knows? Something could always change last minute. So that's my guess, because, normally teams do wait. But I don't know. Sometimes finals are over by now, Yeah, so this series is going to go at least 6, because we got game 6 on Thursday. Maybe 7. And if it goes game 7, the last game of the finals will be 3 days before the NBA draft, which is just wild how close that is together. And that's what I'm rooting for, of course. I think the other angle, we're going to tie this back to the Blazers. We've been talking about Anthony Simons to the Orlando Magic for forever. And it's always been, he's from there, and they have the defensive pieces to not make that an issue if they bring him in, and he provides exactly what they need offensively. And instead, they pay what they did for Desmond Bane. Now, the question I want to ask chat is, did they make the wrong decision trading for Desmond Bane instead of trading for Anthony Simons? Now, let's say the trade for Anthony Simons would have been 16 and maybe a protected future first or something like that, which I think was more than they were offering even at that point. That's my question. Should they have done that trade for Ant or the trade for Desmond Bane? Now, I'm not saying that trade for Ant is on the table from the Blazers' end, because the Blazers and the Magic, it's kind of been the Magic aren't offering, you've talked about this, they're not offering hardly anything for Anthony Simons. They're not really interested in him at all. And then from the Blazers' standpoint, it's they're talking about extending him this offseason, and they're not interested in trading him for picks. They just want to trade for players. And it's I don't think either team was seriously interested in an Anthony Simons to Orlando trade. So when this trade happened, I saw a bunch of Blazer fans on Twitter that I'm just guessing don't watch the show. A bunch of Blazer fans on Twitter lamenting that Ant to Orlando was dead. And why didn't they trade for Ant? Ant's just as good as Bane. They just start comparing Ant and Bane and blah, 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 blah. It's just, Twitter was a mess. And I was just sitting there already kind of knew it wasn't going to happen. Last stream we talked about the likelihood of an Anthony Simons extension, which sounds like a very real possibility. And if we want to have the conversation, because this has been a conversation with Blazer fans the past 36 hours, they should have traded for Ant. They should have traded for Ant. I don't even think they really could have, at least for the package they wanted to give up, which was draft picks. I don't think they could have. I don't think the Blazers are interested in moving him for draft picks. You've convinced me on that
everything else that we have heard or are hearing has been very convincing of that. And I am more convinced. I'm not certain, but I'm more convinced that they're going to give him an extension this offseason. And that's just really where we're at with the Ant thing. So there's no reason to be upset about the Desmond Bane to Orlando trade, because it just sounded like even before that, Ant to Orlando was not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird hearing you say that, because it feels like you have held out hope that the Magic would find a way to get it done.
They call that hopium.
Yeah. But yeah, it's yeah, it has seemed like that has been a complete. I mean, it made sense. It made sense from everyone who proposed trades, from him being from Orlando to them saying they need to address their scoring, shooting, creation situation on offense, that being their main goal this offseason. It made sense that everyone would assume that Simons would be someone that would make sense for that. But like you alluded to, and we've talked about on this show before, I've said this pretty consistently, the Blazers don't, if they trade Anthony for a pick and Contavious Caldwell-Pope or whatever, or 2 or 3 picks, they don't see that as a step towards them reaching their goal. And we can argue what their goal should be and all that kind of stuff. You and I both agree it should not be a short-term goal. It should be a long-term goal. So that might be wrong, the wrong way to think of it, but we have to go by what they're going to do, not what we want to do, because we're not in charge of anything. So we know that the Blazers are going to try and make a playoff push this year, and they feel like that doing a trade like that would have taken a step back. Now you could argue, like you were saying earlier, that you could be creative with the trade to get assets to add that piece that is maybe better than Simons, via a follow-up move, or including a third team or something. But we've also kind of seen this front office not really be creative enough to make that second step trade off the first one, other than, oh, we traded for Drew Holiday, we don't want to keep Drew Holiday, so we're going to trade him again. That's like the only way they've been able to successfully make like a 2-step trade under the Cronin era. So hopefully they find a way to make this team a little better, because it is kind of weird that they might just run back a similar roster and hope that's good enough to take that step and accomplish their goals.
So the Pacers and the Thunder have kind of they've tricked Blazer fans into thinking, and it's what Kenny D says in chat. He had a great comment. It's tricked Blazer fans into thinking that, we just got to keep it going with our young core, That's what the Pacers did. The Thunder built their young core and then just let the cake bake, and look at where they're at right now. They're 1 win away from a finals. And it's like, just that simple. Well, how many teams are sitting out there with a young core as well? Like, you could try and twist that into a favorable opinion of any team's young core, right? So the comment in the chat said, I swear some Blazer fans think that we're OKC, and if they just held on to everyone, that will contend for a title if we don't change anything. Yeah, I've gotten that feeling from fans a little bit too, and it's just blatantly wrong. Like, there's still a lot of work left to do, and here's the thing with fandom. You're always going to overvalue your homegrown players and undervalue other teams' homegrown players. Like, because we're sitting here watching Shaden Sharp for the last 3 years, like, fixated on what he could be
right? And when he only played 32 games last year, when he was gone, it was like watching back Shaden Sharp highlights from those 32 games or his rookie year, end of his rookie year, just dreaming about what he could be. And that's like front and center of our mind. So that's going to, the possibility of Shaden Sharp. We're going to value that more than another team's fan base that's doing that with their own player, and they don't watch Shaden Sharp highlights. They're not sitting there fixating about what Shaden Sharp can be. Just like we're not sitting here fixating over what, like, Benedict Mathurin could be for the Pacers one day, right? So you're always going to, like, I mean, I'm probably prone to this a little bit too. It's easy to overrate and overvalue your own homegrown players. And I think that's the result of that. It's just like, yeah, we got a great young core. We just need to go down the OKC path and just let it bake, and we'll be fine. This team's going to contend. Look at the step they took last year. Look at what the Pacers did. And I just think that's misguided, because a bunch of teams could just say, yeah, we could just let this young core just sit as is and develop, and we'll be contenders just like the Pacers and OKC did. But there's 30 teams in the league. There's 2 teams in the finals. So I don't think the Blazers are in a position where they could just sit here and like run things back and expect to be anything more than a first round exit in 4, maybe 5 games next year as kind of a ceiling, honestly. Which, it'd be cool for them to make the playoffs. We haven't covered the playoffs in quite a while. So, yeah, that would be great, but like that's not the goal. The goal is not just to lose in the first round to OKC. The goal is to get beyond that and take that step as part of a longer process, which, is something that we've been preaching for a while now. The Blazers need to, as an organization, figure out a plan internally that they think maximizes their odds of contending when they could possibly contend, which is not next year, unfortunately, unless they have a miracle trade out of left field. It's in probably 3 to 5 years. What plan maximizes those odds for contention in 3 to 5 years? That needs to be the mindset. Trading Ant for picks could maximize contention down the line, but it doesn't maximize the Blazers' chances of winning next year. If you trade Ant for picks, it's gonna reduce those chances. So if they're hyper-focused, we keep talking about like what the Blazers would do and how they're thinking and this and that. If they're hyper-focused on next year and being as competitive as possible next year, it could be detrimental to their odds of actually contending in 3 to 5 years. And that's the recipe for getting stuck in the middle, where you're not good enough to contend, you're not bad enough to get top draft picks so you can draft a superstar that can help you contend, and that's where you get stuck, never contending. And we've seen that. We saw that in the 2010s. So it's a really pivotal offseason for the Blazers in that regard. And I expect the status quo to be kind of ran back. If the status quo is ran back, then the question becomes like, okay, the deadline, are they still going to keep people past the deadline? Then it comes to extensions, because there's a lot of players expiring next offseason. And that you would assume there's going to be a lot of turnover because of that, either during next offseason or before then leading into it. At the end of the day, the Blazers have some tough decisions to make. And we can sit here and we can talk about like, yeah, they should trade Anthony Simons for picks. They should trade Anthony Simons for this player. They should trade Anthony Simons to that team. They should trade Jeremy Grant. Should have traded Jeremy Grant last offseason. They should start clinging over Ayton. But as far as the long-term conversation goes, they absolutely have to make some decisions sooner rather than later. And they might kick that can down the road this offseason. It's just going to put them in a position where they like finally are going to have to make a choice at some point. Or I guess if they want to be the most stubborn franchise of all time, they could extend Anthony Simons. They could extend DeAndre Ayton, and they could just sit here with Jeremy Grant's contract and just keep this status quo going. But I guarantee you it will not end in contention. And it'll be a brutal result from the rebuild if that's the case.
Yeah, I do think that Cronin's ability to get off of Jeremy is one of the, I mean, that's going to be one of the determining factors, I think. And from everything, it seems like, from what I've heard, is that they're trying to make a move using, obviously, if Thibault opts out, we can't trade him, but if he opts in, um, combining him and Robert Williams to get to that same range that we had Brogdon to trade last offseason. Both of them would be expiring, I believe, then. And so you have a couple of expiring contracts and get you up, somewhere back into trade somewhere, around $25 million mark. And then, you have your number 11 pick. So I think if they make a move, it'll be that kind of package, like 2 or 3 of those guys. Thibault, Rob Will, the 11th pick. That would be more likely in my mind if I'm trying to be realistic here. I think that's the most realistic move they're going to make, is upgrading somehow using them. Now, do they find a way to get off Jeremy and maybe you get a forward that can be our third forward in the rotation out of trading those guys? That's probably the best we can hope for right now. But yeah, I think that's, if you see the Blazers pull off a trade for a good player, I think it's going to be that kind of package. You're muted.
I don't think it's realistic to trade Thibault, Rob Williams, and 11 for a meaningful player that changes the Blazers' fortunes next season. You might get a couple more wins out of it. Yeah, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just...
Yeah.
So, if Desmond Bane goes for the 16th pick and 3 basically unprotected future firsts and a pick swap, and I know KCP's salary, like, that's probably one of the picks accounts for that, right? But that's a lot of assets for Desmond Bane. And that's the caliber of player the Blazers would need to get to really change their fortunes next season. So if you're just packaging Thibault, Rob Williams, and 11, you are not getting a player that's like any better than maybe Cam Johnson is the best you could hope for. Yeah. Cam Johnson coming off the bench.
That's what I keep coming back to. Yeah.
Cam Johnson coming off the bench is not changing the Blazers' fortunes. He fills a need. He fills a need. But it's like, at that point, I'd almost just hope that like Jeremy bounces back as a shooter off the bench and fills that need. You know what I mean? And you just keep the 11th pick.
Yeah.
Like, that's a better move at that point, because you're probably going to be stuck with Jeremy. Even if you trade for Cam Johnson, then it's like, what? Are you paying a guy $32 million next year to not play? Because Jeremy Grant at that point becomes your 4th forward. And that's what I keep coming back to with this offseason, is like, you're stuck with that. You're stuck with that on the roster. So it's like trading for a forward to add to that anchor of a contract with Grant and Denny and Tabati. It's like, what's the point, unless it's such a no-brainer, really good forward that, like, okay, you pull the trigger. Like, if the Pelicans wanted that package for Trey Murphy, like, yeah, you do it, but they're going to want more. So that's why I'm like, that package just doesn't seem like there's a realistic solution that makes sense. Now, maybe there's a realistic solution for the Blazers that doesn't make sense, that they still pull the trigger on just to try and get a little bit better next year, but it just feels like you're not really maximizing the value of your 11th overall pick. So it's like, forward, nah. Guards, I mean, we need to trade a guard. We don't need to add a guard. Like, we don't need Malcolm Brogdon on top of Sharp, Scoot, and Ant. So, and then you got 3 centers. And I guess if you're trading Robert Williams, but it's like you still got 8 and you still got Clingan, so you're not going to do it for a center. Mm-hmm. Like, the Blazers are one of the last teams in the league that is in a position to trade a draft pick for a, like, solid starter. They already got solid starters. And they got people that are coming off the bench that, like, one is Jeremy Grant should be coming off the bench next year, and he's making $32 million. And then next year you're probably having Scoot Henderson, their 3rd overall pick from a couple years ago who took massive strides last season is probably going to be even better in year 3. You're going to have him coming off the bench. You got the guy who the Blazers might have had as the number 1 overall prospect in last year's draft going into year 2, who's a top 10 rim protector in the league. He's coming off the bench. Like, you don't need bench pieces. You don't need solid starters if you're the Blazers trade-wise. Like, they should not be trading a draft pick for that type of player. But that's just the weird thing about this offseason is there's pressure on them to make a move to try and help this team become a playoff team next year, because that is the ultimate goal that they have basically set for themselves, is to become a playoff team. But it's like, how do you actually make reasonable steps towards that goal without completely overpaying for someone and basically trading all your future draft capital and going all in on a roster that might not have the upside to contend later on just to try and make the playoffs this year, which is just a mistake. You're basically the Sacramento Kings again. Or, I mean, you don't trade as much and you get a player that, like Cam Johnson, is just like, all right, so how do you make the minutes work with him, Denny, Tamati, Jeremy Grant? Doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, they got to move Jeremy somehow in that scenario. I guess, so I don't think this is going to happen, so don't twist my words, chat. But there is a scenario where the fact that they're actually going into a season wanting to win, having actual goals, having just that competitive fire to make the playoffs and continue to build off of what happened next year, there is a small chance that could allow players like Scoot and Sharp to thrive and get better and become what we need them to be, even if they're being blocked and stuff on the roster. So I guess, like, that's what we're resigned to, right? It's just like, even though the Blazers are going to make a bunch of short-term decisions, just hoping that, like, heck, that this team, some of these young players end up being so good that it doesn't matter what they do. They're destined to become the players they're going to be, regardless of who's on the roster. I guess that's what we got to hope for now, huh, Tori?
Yeah. It's going to be super interesting next season. Just, you have a lot of these narratives that come to a head, and are they actually going to be better? Are they actually going to improve defensively, offensively? First season with expectations in a while. I'm actually looking forward to covering this team next year in a way that I have not in a while. I look forward to every season and post-game shows and this and that, but it's going to be a different type of year, for better or worse. Yeah, like, pushing for the playoffs is a completely fine goal. Like, it is not a problem with, like, the goal of pushing for the playoffs. You just can't make a bad move for the long term because you want so badly to make the playoffs next year, if that makes sense. Like, It should be a goal in the locker room, a goal with the coaching staff, and, you know, if you want to make, like, the Blazers would need to make shrewd moves that maybe make them better next year, but also for the long term. Like, you look at the Pacers when they drafted Andrew Nembhard 31st overall and traded basically nothing for Aaron Nesmith. That helped them get better right away, and those players are a part of their long-term future. Like, if there's moves like that out there for the Blazers where
part of the Brogdon trade, I think. Right?
Yeah, like, if the acquisition cost is low for somebody that ends up paying dividends and is part of your core, like, absolutely make those types of moves. But
they got Obi for seconds, I think.
Yeah, but, like, those moves are hard to pull off. If you can pull those moves off, fine. But that's not the 11th overall pick, right? That's not trading your lottery pick in a range where the Blazers can get any type of prospect they want at 11. They can get an NBA-ready shooter that could play the 3. That's going to be available there. They can get a high upside, unique prospect, whether it's maybe Derek Queen, who's like a 6'9", 6'10" center with, like, good passing skills, insane footwork, like, really unique prospect, whether it's a 6'8", 6'9" point guard in Yegor Demon, who's maybe the best passer in the draft class, right? Like, if you want to go high upside, you got a couple unique prospects. I think one of those two will be there. Or, you could kind of like mix the two, right? Like Cedric Coward could be NBA ready with some sneaky upside. Like, there's so many quality prospects available at 11 that fill a need that like could contribute to the team next year, but also be good for the long term, that it's like, I don't want them to trade the pick. I do not want the Blazers to trade the 11th overall pick.
And I see a lot of people asking what they think we should do at 11, or what they're asking us what we would do at 11. We did talk about this a lot last stream. I believe the Blazers will take Igor Demon if he's on the table. Me personally, I guess that's okay. If you're going to keep all the guards, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I do agree with the mindset of just take who you think is going to be the best player and make it work later. I mean, especially if it's Demon, I don't know how much he's going to contribute year one.
Yeah.
So that is a long-term upside play. So I guess, as we're talking about them not thinking about the long term, if they do that with their draft pick, I think you have to at least give them credit for not fully giving up on that long-term approach. But in my mind, I would much rather go with Coward. If I had my choice, I just think the upside there is too much to pass up.
Yeah.
And I feel like he could be, I don't, a lot of people compare him to J-Dub, but I mean, he's a different player, but like, basically you're looking for a player who could be a, third or fourth option on a championship team. And of all the guys we could possibly pick there, I just have this weird feeling like we're going to look back on it like, why did all these teams pass on Coward? Why did he fall to OKC at 15?
Yeah.
And like, how did they add another one of these players, without having a high lottery pick or whatever? So, like, I personally would go with Coward. I'd be a little disappointed if he's on the board and we didn't take him. But like, if we took Asengwe or Demon or whoever, like, I understand the play too. So like, I wouldn't be like pissed off or anything.
Yeah. There's plenty of prospects where I'd be completely fine with them taking 11. You can throw in Carter Bryant there, although for the Blazers, like, I'd rather have Asengwe or Coward than Carter Bryant, and that's just because I feel like, I don't know, like, the creation upside isn't there with Carter Bryant as maybe some of those other guys that could also be good defenders and shoot the three. Like, Carter Bryant kind of reminds me a little bit of Tamani, and it's like, yeah, you could always use more Tamanis, but it's just like, if you don't want to like completely duplicate that, you can find good defenders that can do some different things that can maybe play the three. Like, I like Coward a lot. They won't take him, but I also would not mind Nick Clifford at 11 at all. I kind of have that same feeling with him as I do about Coward. Like, just his athleticism and the way he moves, Eric. I always look at movement patterns and this and that, and just the way he's developed his game as a passer, his rebounding, some of the shots he hits off the dribble, the way he elevates. Like, I could see him becoming a fringe star and then looking back and being like, you could see it right now. Like, he legitimately has that upside and he's NBA ready. He should go in the lottery, in my opinion. Like, he should be up there in the conversation with like Coward and Carter Bryant. He's an older prospect, but we see guys like a Jalen Williams who are older prospects that end up being steals. Like, I would take all the guys I've said over Colin Murray Boyles, for example. I'd take all of them over Asa Newell.
Yeah.
I'd take all of them over Liam McNeely. I'd take all of them over Jace Richardson. We haven't even said Rasheer Fleming. I'd take him over all those guys. So, yeah, it's kind of like the short list of names is Asengwe, Carter Bryant, Neat Clifford, Cedric Coward, Yegor Demon, Rasheer Fleming. Am I missing anyone? Derek Queen.
Yeah. Fleming, to me, if they take him, the simplest way I can put this is they have valued length and kind of rangy forwards. And I mean, if he's like a power forward, he's got insane size and versatility, can protect the rim and possibly guard on the perimeter a little bit. So that would just be like kind of fitting into their defensive identity from the past offseason of trying to establish that. So I would think that would be a long-term play. I don't feel like he's in play for them at 11 though. So I'm not even like, I'm starting to not even include him when I think of 11 because I don't think they're going to take him there. Now maybe if they traded down or something happened where they had a later pick, maybe they would consider it, but I don't think they're going to at 11. I guess the only other guy we haven't discussed in this conversation is Yakuchonis if he fell.
You gotta trade him if you take Yakuchonis though.
Yeah.
Like if Spheres falls to 11, like you gotta. At that point, especially if it's Yakuchonis, Spheres is a little bit more like Rod. Maybe wouldn't play year one, but like Yakuchonis is a little bit more ready and would benefit from NBA reps right away. I think it's just like add another guard to that mess. That's ready in your lottery pick. It's just, I don't know, weird, but that means the Blazers would probably do it. I also wonder if there is a chance they could trade up for Knipple. I would definitely explore that. If he's there at like, I don't think Brooklyn wants to trade down from 8, but like if he's there at 9 and like Malawatch isn't and the Raptors aren't sold on anyone, is willing to move down 2 spots for an extra asset, and you could get Knipple at 9. I think it's unlikely that he falls to 9, but like, the Pelicans, they want to trade up for Ace Bailey. Let's say they can't do that. Would they be then willing to trade down from 7? What would it take? Like, I would consider trading 11 in the worst 2029 first to draft Knipple. He's NBA ready. He would help them right away, fill an area of need. I think has some sneaky upside, like as a creator. High floor. I think has like fringe all-star ceiling. I think that's like the type of guy I would take a swing on too, for sure.
I do know Brooklyn is interested in getting some of Milwaukee's assets for some reason. So, I mean, I guess there is a possibility we could just trade for 8 outright using some of our future assets, but if he was on the board there. But
yeah, I mean, it's tough giving up upside. The upside of those picks for Knipple. I wouldn't do that, Can you move up like 3 spots? I don't know.
Well, what if we just got the 8th pick outright by giving up?
Still, like even if you got like Knipple outright for like let's say it's the 2028 swap, let's just say it's that first straight up to Brooklyn, like I'd probably still rather have the upside of that swap. I don't like giving up the higher upside asset for the safer guy as much as I like Knipple.
Yeah, for me, I think the kind of guys we're talking about at 11, one of them has to be there that I'm comfortable taking. So I'm not giving up much of anything to move up at all. I think you could just stay at 11 and be fine with who you take there.
I just think it's likely Knipple's a better version, or more likely that, like, if I had to bet who's going to be the best player, Colin Knippel or one of Carter Bryant, Yegor, Demond, Senge, Queen, Nick Clifford. Like, obviously, I'd bet the field against him, but it's like the likelihood the Blazers get the right one at 11 compared to Knippel is not likely. So, like, I'd give up an asset to trade up for Knippel because I think it's just much more likely you hit on that. So that's why I do it. But this is the tricky part with drafting, man. And there's a lot of trade talk, but it's not really like, it doesn't really feel like trade down talk. It feels like the Rockets putting in their pick and play maybe for KD or other players. Like the trade down talk would maybe be like them trading down from 10 to 19 with Brooklyn to get Cam Johnson. It's like for player purposes.
Yeah.
Not for like pick purposes. The Nets have 4 firsts. They're not trading down from 8. The Pelicans are just a complete mess. Like maybe they trade down from 7, but that's the last thing we're hearing with them right now. They want Ace Bailey. They're willing to trade up for him. They're willing to take offers for like everybody on their roster. We're not hearing trade down talk. Like the Wizards and Jazz, they need top prospects. They're not going to trade down from that. They have, especially in the Jazz's case, they have future firsts. So I think the Blazers are kind of set at 11. I think they just draft somebody there. I think it probably ends up being Yegor. If he's on the board, would be my guess. I trust Jonathan Gavoni there at this point because he's nailed it in the past and has the relationship he does with Mike Schmitz. So, yeah, I'm just happy that we're close to finding out because this offseason has been like the lead up to this offseason has been a lot of uncertainty. I feel like, and like I know we're expecting them to run it back and keep the status quo, but it's kind of like that. How could they do that type of feeling? That either I want them to just, I just want it to be confirmed, like that's really what they're doing, or no, they actually made some moves and cleared the way for Scoot, and like they actually did this, and I can feel good about that. The anticipation is starting to kill me.
Yeah. I mean, this is always the most fun time of year for both you and I with the draft next week. Now covering 2 days. And then... we'll
have live streams for both. I just saw the question in chat. We'll have live streams for both days.
And then 4 days later, we're into free agency. So, I mean, we're literally 2 weeks away from a lot of these questions starting to be answered, and it seems like it's coming fast. But I mean, there's of course stuff that can happen all throughout June, July, August, September, whatever. But like for the most part, most of free agency happens in the first couple weeks, if not the first couple days. Most of the big trades happen, either around the draft or heading into free agency. So, I mean, we're going to find out a lot in 2 weeks. So we've already had the draft. We'll have already been into the first night of free agency. And
we're going to know by then.
Yeah.
We're going to know soon. I think my guy Eric Olson in chat hates Demon too much, man. He hates him too much. If they go Demon, I am fine with it. You're drafting the best passer in the draft who happens to be like 6'8", 6'9". Had some solid defensive moments last year. His shot mechanics look fine, and you can always improve a jump shot. Like, the idea behind him is you have just a truly unique player that, he needs to tighten up his handle. He needs to work on things. But the idea of Demon is worth drafting him at 11. You have a 6'9" guy that can handle the ball, pass, shoot, and play defense. those types of players are hard to find. And could be like a legitimately really good piece to have. And could allow the Blazers to play some versatile lineups if he can truly develop. Like, it's not somebody to sit here and, like, hate. He's going to take some work. It's going to take some time to develop him. But I'd rather have somebody with a high upside that can develop than somebody that has a low upside and isn't good. Right? Like, I'd rather have a Yegor Demon than, I hate to say it, but a Chris Murray type of prospect.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And like I said earlier, I think more so than just who they draft or like how they fit or whatever, if it's a guy like Demon, I would say at least they're like some part of their plan involves like trying to find players that could be long-term fits or long-term projects or whatever, instead of just like, oh, we're going to sacrifice any of that to win or make the playoffs this year.
Yeah. It's good to see some new faces in chat. Also, some people that haven't seen in a while in chat. Good to see you. Shout out to you if you're tuning back in for the first time in a while with the draft about a week away. Landon Cottrell says about Demon, he says he's an amazing passer, but he really can't create advantages at all for a lead ball handler, so I don't see how it works. Well, the idea would be, okay, he can knock down threes. He doesn't have to be the lead ball handler necessarily. Like, he can play off ball if he can knock down threes, all right? Then he's put in positions where, like, he can attack closeouts, right? And he's not the quickest guy, but if guys are closing out on him, like, he can attack closeouts and beat players like that and get into the paint. His playmaking comes alive, etc. And then handling the ball in the open court and transition if the Blazers want to play a fast tempo, like in space where he's not just trying to create against a set defender and then running pick and roll where a screen picks off his guy. Like, that is the idea of Demon. And then you hope that he can tighten up his handle, get a little stronger, and then like actually create against a set defense. But you look at the Pacers, man. They don't really have players that are good in isolation. Like, Halliburton at times struggles to create advantages, at least against this, like, OKC defense. He struggled today. But, like, even the game he had 22 points, like, yeah, he beat somebody off the dribble here and there and, like, got to the rim. But he's not, like, blowing by guys. And he just plays in the flow. They play with so much space and they play so fast that it's, like, most of his opportunities to create for himself and others aren't really against a set defender that's right in front of him. And that would be the hope with a guy like Demon is, I don't know, like, could he be, that's what I think his ceiling could be, is maybe like a bigger Halliburton type of player. Maybe not that good of a passer, but I think that's like somebody that can legitimately run your offense like that, and might not be the best ISO scorer, but just makes the right decisions and is just very steady and can see over the defense and just orchestrates your whole offense and can hit some threes and get to the rim and score and can give you like 18, 19 points per game and 8 to 10 assists. I think that's the ceiling. That's the best case scenario of Demon. But like that's a good player. Absolutely. So I see the Blazers' vision if they draft him.
Yeah. So Landon says, but how can you put stock into someone who shot 22%, I think it was 27% from three in conference play on low volume and 69% from the line? It is hard to do that. It is hard to project. Obviously, that's not a good shooting percentage. But as I said last stream, I guess teams were blown away watching him shoot. It was like he was a completely different person
Yeah.
shooting the ball in at the combine in a private workout for teams, and I was told that there are numerous teams that think his shooting is actually going to be a positive, not a negative. But
Yeah.
until he proves it on the court, you never. I always go back to players the Blazers have had in the past that were supposed to be good shooters and could never make a basket when they played an actual game. But
Yeah, like what Tyrese Maxey shoot in college, 29% from three. Like what Myers Leonard shoot from three in college. He shot 8% from three in college over his 2 years at Illinois, and then he became like a 3-point sniping setter. Jalen Johnson was like 44% from three, but it was only 8 for 18, and he was also 63% from the free throw line in college. And I also think that's kind of like a intriguing comp a little bit. Jalen Johnson's more athletic. And like a little bigger, I think, but I think Desmond's a better passer. Jalen Johnson was not known for his shooting coming into the league. There's plenty of guys who have shooting questions coming into the league but have other good traits, and then when their shooting catches up, they pop. I'd rather have that than somebody like, I don't know, like I'd rather have Ace Bailey than Desmond, but the thing is with Ace Bailey is like he has to be a good 3-point shooter or else he's probably a complete and total bust. And he has similar questions. He shot better from three, but he's like 34%. He's also 69% from the free throw line. And he is, I think, much more jumper reliant than somebody that I think Desmond is like at least just a better team defender, better awareness on that end coming into the league, and then also has the passing vision and feel that you cannot teach. So that's... I think people get too caught up on a player's 3-point percentage in college coming into the league. Like for me, it's like, does his form look repeatable? And it does to me. Like, I don't think his form is bad. And that's the risk. Like, you're not going to get a high upside 6'9" point guard with the best passing in the class without some risk. There's a reason he'd be there at 11, and it's because of his shot.
Yeah, so like Marv says, shooting alone in a gym, really. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, it's not the perfect scenario, but I guess his mechanics just looked really freaking good, like better than people thought they were at BYU. And it seemed like he was just locked in shooting the ball. His shot looked like people were blown away by his mechanics and didn't feel like his shooting at BYU was an accurate representation.
Yeah,
now, they could be wrong. They could be dead wrong, and he could never be a good shooter. And a lot of times, as we've talked about with Scoot over the last couple of years, sometimes it might be a mental thing, even when you're in a game versus shooting in a gym. So that could 100% be true, but yeah.
Also, he suffered an injury last year at around like December 10th. It was a knee injury, but like if that lingers, that can also affect your shot. I want to look at what he was shooting before that injury. So now this was non-conference, and they faced some tough teams, but he was shooting 38% from three before his knee injury. He hurts his knee, comes back December 31st, and just struggles from three. But in his last 5 games, he did knock down a 3 in each game. In his last 5 games, he shot... I'm trying to highlight the right rows here, Basketball Reference. Let me refresh this. In his last 5 games, he shot... Yeah, it's not that good. It was still 26%.
So he shot the 3-ball well to start the season, kind of fell off. He dealt with an injury. Who knows how much that lingered. He did have a 3-for-7 game in the first round against VCU from 3. His form isn't bad. It's just sometimes guys just struggle. Like Tyrese Maxey shot 29% from 3 his freshman year of college, and now he's like a 40%er. So, and I like Tyrese Maxey going into that draft. I thought he was a steal where the Sixers drafted him, and I thought he had fine shooting form, and it was one of those things where like his shot looked repeatable, and it was just like gut feeling like he's going to be a better 3-point shooter than this. It was the same thing with me with Austin Reeves, who struggled from 3 his last like year or 2 in college when he was at Oklahoma. He shot his second to last year of college, he shot 26% from 3. This last year of college, he shot 30.5% from 3. Now, the free throw percentages for him were impressive, like 85%. But, his 3-point percentage was not. But his shooting form looked fine, and it was just like a lot of like attacking downhill in college. And then he adapted to a different role in the league and got into the league and improved his shooting. I just feel like Demon's going to be one of those guys where he comes into the league and he's not going to like light it up and be an amazing shooter, but I think he'll be good enough.
Yeah, that's the hope.
In all likelihood, Jaeger will turn into a Josh Giddey type player, tall playmaker with a below average and consistent shot, but he does have the upside to be better. I mean, like the hope, I think he could be like that with a better jumper. And like smoother as like a ball handler and like somebody that attacks downhill. But that's the player you're trying to get basically, and better defensively. I don't think he's going to be like a good defender, but I think he can definitely be adequate, which for that archetype, that's what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's our draft talk. If you got any questions, we'll answer questions for about 5 minutes and wrap up the stream. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. If the Blazers make a trade or have some big news, we'll go live right away as soon as possible. Now, I'll be out of pocket tomorrow. I'm having a dental procedure done. So, out of pocket. I'm going to be under some anesthetic. So if they make a trade at like 10 a.m. tomorrow, Eric, it's going to be some bad timing.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be like, I'm going to be at the dentist till like probably 11, and then I'm going to be knocked out. So
yeah,
they better not make a trade tomorrow morning. Yeah.
You put it out there.
Yeah.
What do you haven't done?
Just like root canal. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, fun. Fun stuff, man.
That was me last summer.
Bring Rich on as a sub. Eric's going to be working. I don't even think Rich could stream. Also, I'd have to run the stream, and I'm going to be knocked out, so there's various reasons why that does not work, Alex. Also, if you guys are interested in more content, I was on Rip City Radio earlier today. You can go check out their YouTube page. Go subscribe to it. Shout out to my guy, Chris Burkhart.
Remember last summer when I had several root canal procedures and my voice was all, or my tongue was all numb for a couple streams?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
When was
I'm
that?
talking like this sometimes.
Oh, I thought that was just normal. No, I'm kidding.
No. Oh, wow. How dare you, Tori?
I don't remember.
Wow.
I don't, dude. I
know.
I have so many stats and players and scouting reports to remember. It's hard to remember other things, you know?
Yeah.
There's only so much room up here. Only so much room. Fears Dennis Smith Jr. with the jumper. Fears and Dennis Smith are nothing alike.
We got some coward fans. We like that. We like that. Can we get a comp on Jeremiah Fears? What's your comp for Fears, Eric?
I'm not a big player comp fan, but I don't want to be blasphemous. Yeah, I don't know. McCollum's not bad,
Yeah, I don't really think he's like McCollum.
but yeah.
Let me just Google this and see if I agree. Monta Ellis is what Google told me, and I saw that in chat. Yeah.
We had a donation too.
Oh, we had a donation?
Yeah.
Oh, shout out to... Where's it at? It's not even showing up for me.
Okay, I got it.
Oh, I found it. Shout out to Monopo Man. What's up, man? With a $3.50 donation. He always likes to donate like $3.50. Says, where is the most likely team for Anthony now?
The Blazers.
Yeah. Great answer. I agree. Yeah, there you go. The Blazers.
Yeah, so obviously you probably didn't watch last stream, but I mean, I think I don't want to speak for you, but I resigned myself to just moving forward with him as a Blazer this year. We can come up with these teams like everyone and their mom had him going to Orlando. Like I was the only person saying that was not like even being discussed or whatever. So like,
it's just still ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I feel like I mean we could sit here and name a bunch of teams. Like I've heard Minnesota and Detroit have had interested in him in the past. Obviously, there's lots of other teams that could use shooting. Dallas is going to be without Kyrie for the year. Memphis now could maybe use a shooter. I mean, there's 10 to 15 teams we could list that could probably make sense for Anthony, but I don't feel like the Blazers are going to explore trading him this offseason.
There was a weird rumor about Toronto wanting him. You talking about Ant? I did have somebody tweeted me that the Blazers are like the favorite to get RJ Barrett if he's traded.
I don't get that because they just locked him up on a long-term contract.
Too much.
So I mean, I don't think that makes a ton of sense to have two smaller guards. That just doesn't seem like Ujiri's style.
Eric Olsen, I agree 100% with that. Even Magic Uprise signed off with a move being solid. Yeah, it made a ton of logical sense for both teams, but logical sense and the Blazers sometimes don't mix. So that's why we're paying Jeremy Grant as much money as we're paying him still.
To be fair, I mean, it's not 100% on the Blazers. It was also the Magic for some reason not really valuing him. And this goes back to when they traded Aaron Gordon for RJ Hampton and didn't want or valued RJ Hampton over Gary Trent Jr. or Anthony Simons in that deal. It just seems like they've never really had an interest in Anthony unless it was going to be really cheap.
Florida teams don't like us.
Mm-hmm.
Florida teams don't like us. It's a shame. It's a shame.
Coward reminds me of Edwards, not as explosive but longer. What Edwards? Anthony Edwards? Like a unathletic version? Hoop Intellect dropped a scouting tape on Coward today, which was a fun watch.
Yeah.
I just think he's improved so much, man. Like, that dude clearly works his ass off, and his interview is impressive. Like, the way he like attacks what he needs to work on. He's gonna be a top 10 player from this class. He's gonna get drafted outside of the top 10. Just hope that whoever the Blazers, it's probably Desmond. I hope that Desmond's also a top 10 player. When we kind of became resigned to like we're gonna get Klingon, although we didn't really know, but we kind of had this feeling.
Yeah,
it's the same thing with Desmond right now, man. Like, we don't know. He could get drafted before our pick, but
here's my thing with Klingon. I didn't want to give up because at the time we had 7 and 14, and I didn't want to give both of those up to get Klingon, So the fact that we ended up trading 14, getting Denny, and then stayed put, and Klingon fell all the way to 7, that ended up being 5.
Yeah.
It kind of changed my mindset on getting him, but I thought there was no way at certain points. I mean, there was talk about him going 1 for a while. So like there was going to be no way we were going to be able to draft him. And so like if we did somehow acquire him, it would have had to have been given up a bunch of assets to move up. So that would have been the worst case in my opinion.
Alex says, Tori, I found a clip of you predicting Klingon to Portland in 2023. Send me the clip and the timestamp. We can react to it and then end the stream. So
Blazer, bro, we just took like 30 minutes talking.
Yeah, if you just tuned into the stream, just rewind like 30 minutes because we've been having this conversation. Did you end up listening to a Coward interview like I asked you to?
I have not yet. No.
Bro, I was posting in the Discord like a while, like a week ago. I think AJ posted it. But he was talking about like working on his handle and working on his pull-up shooting and like basically like hyperfixating on how hard the last pound dribble is so that the ball ends up in like a certain spot on his shooting pocket that allows him to like flow into his jumper or something like that. Like it was really interesting like to hear him talk about it. It's just stuff like that, man. Like he's a smart player. Like he's a great interview. Like yeah, you should definitely listen to it. There's an interview he does where he looks like he's at a hotel and he's just like reviewing film, I think it was, but message your boy AJ for that one.
Okay.
All right. Let's see here. Did I get sent this timestamp? Because I believe you. I've predicted plenty of things before that end up being right. But also
I believe you that I'm awesome.
But also end up being wrong. Hey, man, I'm not going to call Alex a liar. I believe him.
All right. Well, maybe that's something to look forward to on Thursday.
Yeah, because he just hasn't responded. So, anyway, appreciate you guys hanging out. It's called Willamette Education. Hell yeah, man. Does he count as a local product because he went to Willamette University? Where even is Willamette University?
It's in Salem.
It's insane. Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a local product, right? Be cool to go from Willamette University to the Portland Trail Blazers. His rise has been really cool to watch, but
Oh, Alex is sending now.
via Discord. Not fast enough. I'm tired. I'll watch it after. Just send it in our main Discord chat with the timestamp, and if people want to hear me go full no, it's too late to say that. Nostradamus, is that how you say it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm tripping. I'm tired. If you want to hear me go full Nostradamus, join our Discord, link in the description box below. And you can check in. We'll be live for the draft. We'll be live on Thursday, then live on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is probably the plan, I think, because normally we do a draft preview the night before the draft. So, especially assuming there's trades and stuff, that's kind of the plan, is like we'll stream this upcoming Thursday, then we'll stream Monday, Tuesday night, and then, maybe it's day if there's a trade, and then Wednesday, Thursday will be the draft. And then the Monday after that will be free agency. And we'll have a full day's live stream for that. So we got you covered. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button to be notified whenever we drop something or go live. Also, if you want to check out my radio spot earlier today on Blazers Courtside, check out Rip City Radio 620, their YouTube page. I've been doing a little bit more radio stuff lately, which is fun. It's fun. I'm finally getting comfortable, which is cool. So, I'll let you guys know when I do another one of those. And with that being said, we are out of here. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your Monday night. It's not a Thursday. Have a good rest of your Monday night. We're out of here. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!